There's the sound effect. Love the sound effect. I kind of touched on this one in the very first one of these that I did, because we found the SOM manual, the PDF, with the order form in the back. Let that one sink in. Again, as usual, that sucker was dated like April 1954, but there's more of these. There's more of them. And they apparently stretch back to the Roswell incident. I say apparently because there's this whole collection of, it's not a paper, it's more like several papers. You can find it on this website that says debunker.com/historical/historical.html, white papers and related correspondence by Philip Klass. The one I'm looking at says arguments against the authenticity of the alleged MJ12 papers, first series only. Even Stanton Friedman won't strongly defend the second series of MJ12 papers. So that should tell you something. Both sets of documents are promoted on this website, the Majestic documents. It's subtitled Evidence That We Are Not Alone. We have that neat retro web design that we have come to know and love. You've got your weird transitions and quotes from people saying things like, is my conclusion that UFOs do exist, are very real, and are from spaceships from more than one solar system. But yeah, this is the website. Curious about the documentary record of military and government participation with UFOs, wreckage retrieval, and extraterrestrials? ? This site is all about it. The documents, the forensics, the military and intelligence history, and stunning validating evidence. Join us on a journey into the beyond top secret world that the government cabal has been hiding since 1941? Damn. As far as I've been able to gather so far, the first series of documents is basically memoranda about the Roswell incident and subsequent things. There are books. I think these are books. UFO disclosure weapons. This leads, you click on this, it goes to the website ufoconference.com. This one says The Secret. It goes to the website theufosecret.com. But I just love the title, The Secret. Magic Eyes Only. This leads to it. So these aren't books. Maybe they're books, but that one also has its own website. And magic is spelled with a J. That's how they differentiate from like everybody but some occult books. So here's a search bar if we ever get curious about anything. So let's get started. They have a mission statement. And let's take care of that for a second. The team's mission is to clarify the UFO phenomenon, its agenda and history, and to implement the most effective way to educate the public and world governments to its reality and implications. Our overall goals are to aggressively collect data and draw conclusions. Aggressively draw conclusions. Weird phrasing. Create an environment conducive to public disclosure of information withheld by all inside sources. Educate and present findings and conclusions to the public. Wow, this is generic and bland. Establish a Okay, I understand that its purpose is more to be informative than anything else. But if it's kind of painful to read, it probably won't be read. Establish a dialogue with the broader community, including religions, governments, and political parties. All 2 of them. Improve the information exchange and effectiveness of ufology and increase participation in the subject. Consider that for a second. This website is dedicated to the Majestic documents and their related codewords such as Magic or MJ12. The plan is to build a strong information base. Put a pin in that. That focuses on the authenticity of these and new documents. Specifically, we plan to share details supporting rationale for authenticity and strong linkage with known historical facts. Easy to do when you're writing them after the fact. Expand the database of credible witnesses and hard proof to the UFO ET phenomenon. What hard proof? Really? Potentially restate the history of the United States and the world. Did I accidentally stumble into ancient aliens? Not ignoring that. Pay special attention to the technological implications of the documents and their potential reverse engineering clues to our modern science and benefiting corporations. Offer intellectual products for sale to pay for the ongoing research team expenses. Our hope is that within the next 5 years, the UFO community or other visionaries will succeed in bringing forth overwhelming proof of the UFO ET reality, with particular attention paid to recovered alien technology, which will help solve planet Earth's problems of pollution, energy propulsion, and intolerance, and point towards unlimited energy and economical interstellar travel. Okay. Investigation team. Robert M. Wood, PhD. Ryan S. Wood is like his son, I think. Nick Redfern, Stanton Friedman, Timothy Cooper, Jim Mars, Mr. Jim Clarkson. Okay. Hello, Stanton. You're in literally every UFO thing since the Boer War. Introduction to the Majestic documents. MajesticDocuments.com. Note this formatting is a groundbreaking look at the United States UFO program called Majestic and the top secret government documents that tell the story of presidential and military action, authorization, and cover-up regarding UFOs and their alien occupants. If Majestic was real, I feel like the easiest way to keep it a secret is to have it be these exact assholes in a basement. Just like these guys researching UFOs. And that's MJ12. There's your rabbit hole for the day. Real talk, though. A remarkable work of investigative journalism. I can't. A remarkable work of investigative journalism. Your lies ain't float, though. This don't float. This website is the first to authenticate top secret UFO documents that tell a detailed story of the crashed discs, alien bodies, presidential briefings, and superb secrecy. I know that they kept Manhattan Project under wraps well enough, as well as they could, but spies still knew. Because that's spies' job, and if they're good at their job, they're gonna know shit. How do alien spot, or how does there know spies that know about this? Where's the spies? I want the spy thriller of the guys from a foreign country that are like poking around for US government secrets, for their own ends and like keeping tabs on us, and they find MJ12. I want that spy thriller. I should write that spy thriller if I was any good, but that would be such a good. That would be so good. Special attention is paid to the forensic authentication issues of content, provenance, type, style, and chronology. I almost tripped over that word for some reason. The story that documents tell leaves the reader with little doubt that the cover up is real, shocking, and at times unethical. Okay, so it's just like abductions. That's probably going to come up. Shit. Operation Majestic 12 was established by special classified presidential order on September 24th, 1947, at the recommendation of Secretary of Defense James Forrestal and Dr. Vannevar Bush, chairman of the Joint Research and Development Board. The goal of the group was to exploit everything they could from recovered alien technology. I feel like if you're heading a group up by the Secretary of Defense, the goal should be to protect the country. I don't know, maybe I'm oversimplifying and I don't really understand how government works, but I feel like that would be the goal. Buried in a super secret magic eyes only classification that was above top secret. Okay, I talked in another episode about how the classification system works. And actually, that was the very first one because I'd gotten curious. I talked there about how classification works. And just to refresh everybody, basically, top secret is the highest, but attached to that, they compartmentalize. Not everybody with a top secret clearance can read all the top secret documents. They're compartmentalized and they're given special code words attached to that. Parallel or in tandem, I guess. And you have to have the code word clearance to read those documents. So if magic was real, you would have to have a top secret clearance and a magic clearance that's the code clearance. At least as far as I understand it. Oh god. Long before the modern top secret code word special access programs of today, they saw this coming. They saw this coming. But that code word system, hasn't that been around for like forever? Hold on, let me check. Code word classifications. Oh, somebody Googled what is cosmic clearance. David Wilcock got to this person. Or to these people. Clearancejobsblog.com. But yeah, I think the system was instituted by Nixon. And probably to grossly simplify matters. Under Executive Order 13526. The latest in a long series of executive orders on the topic. So it did grossly oversimplify. Issued by Barack Obama in 2009. Okay, so maybe I did get a couple of things wrong. Classified Information Procedures Act, enacted in 1980. Okay. That was not quite what I was looking for. How long has this been around is what I want to know. GSA approved security container is a locked filing cabinet. Okay. So the idea of top secret has been around at least since the documents were known. Lots of weird books. UFOs, the aliens, 9/11, New World Order, police state. I don't care. I'm not finding what I'm looking for, but the idea of top secret and therefore like secret and public trust and so on seems to have been around at least for longer than at least for at least since 1983, at least, because they had to get the idea of top secret magic eyes only, you know. Ambitious elite scientists such as Vannevar Bush, Albert Einstein, and Robert Oppenheimer, and career military people such as Hoyt Vandenberg, Roscoe Hillenkotter, Leslie Groves, and George Marshall, along with a select cast of other experts, feverishly and secretively labored to understand the alien agenda, technology, and their implications. I feel like, because there's some rumors that float around where there's a live alien body and no one thinks to ask. I understand the language barrier and everything, but like no one tried to like teach the living alien English and help it become fluent, and then ask what it wants. Unless that was part of their feverish attempts. Einstein and Oppenheimer were called in to give their opinion, drafting a 6-page paper titled Relationships with the Inhabitants of Celestial Bodies, prophetic insight into our modern nuclear strategies and satellites, and expressed agitated urgency that an agreement be reached with the president so that scientists could proceed to study the alien technology. The extraordinary recovery of fallen airborne objects in the state of New Mexico between July 4th and July 6th caused the Chief of Staff of the Army Air Force's Interplanetary Phenomena Unit Scientific and Technical Branch Counterintelligence Directorate to initiate a thorough investigation. The special unit was informed in 1942 in response to 2 crashes in Los Angeles. Was that the Battle of Los Angeles? Is that what's going on? The draft summary report begins. 2 identified aircraft until both dropped off radar. 2 crash sites have been located. Site LZ1 was located on a ranch near Corona, approximately 7 miles northwest of the town of Roswell. That's the Brazel Ranch. It's located approximately 20 miles southeast of the town of Socorro. This is the first time I've seen Socorro out of the context of discussions of Lonnie Zamora's sightings. Well, sighting singular. The first ever known UFO crash retrieval occurred in 1941 in Cape Girardeau in Missouri. Goff early reverse engineering work, but did not create a unified intelligence effort to exploit possible technological gains apart from the Manhattan Project uses. The debris from the primary field of the 1947 crash 20 miles southeast of Socorro, New Mexico was called ULAT-1, identified a lenticular aerodyne technology, and is excited metallurgist with its unheard of tensile and shear strengths. The fusion nuclear, called neutronic at the time, engine used heavy water and deuterium with an oddly arranged series of coils, magnets, and electrodes. In descriptions that resemble the cold fusion studies of today. Harry Truman kept the technical briefing documents of September 24th, 1947 for further study, pondering the challenges of creating and funding a secret organization before the CIA existed, and before there was a legal procedure for funding non-war operations. I want to ask if the U.S. is really that incompetent, but we trusted a reality TV star who shouldn't be trusted with safety scissors with an entire nation. So I mean, in April 1954, a group of senior officers of the U.S. intelligence community and the armed forces gathered for one of the most secret and sensational briefings in history. The subject was unidentified flying objects, not just a discussion of sightings, but how to recover crash. This is the SOM manual. This is about the SOM manual. Where to ship the parts and how to deal with the occupants. In the special operations, he called it Extraterrestrial Entities, Technology Recovery and Disposal, Majestic 12. Red teams mapped out UFO crash retrieval scenarios with special attention given to press blackouts, body packaging, and live alien transport, isolation, and custody. This is sounding like the backstory to Paul. Paul, by the way, deserved better. MajesticDocuments.com, again, the formatting, is not another rehash of the famous Roswell story. It contains another 500 pages and growing of newly surfaced documents, many of which date years before the Roswell crash. Unlike other websites, a central theme of validating authenticity is woven throughout the site while telling the exciting story of the U.S. government's work on retrieval and analysis of extraterrestrial hardware and alien life forms from 1941 to present. Our compact disc, The Secret, Evidence That We Are Not Alone, shows 117 pages of leaked top-secret UFO documents, most never before seen by the public. Some 26 pages were allegedly prepared for a 1954 Special Operations Manual. This can be purchased. That explains the order form on our website, along with 2 other books that provide both raw original documents and retyped replicas that are often easier to read. The CD provides an initial discussion as to why this briefing manual and other documents are almost certainly authentic. I'm looking forward to that, but I don't want to spend the money. Majestic documents tell a mind-boggling story of deception, intelligence, and counterintelligence, revolutionary alien technology, missing nuclear weapons, and a compartmentalized secrecy spanning in time from the first crash disk retrieval in 1941 until 3 days before President Kennedy's assassination in 1963. Our investigation team, led by Robert and Ryan Wood, a father and son team. I knew they were related. I just couldn't remember how. With 50 years of combined UFO study, has applied their skills as both sleuths and scholars, painstakingly verifying deep throat sources, meticulously analyzing old and controversial documents. They arrive finally at conclusions that are as well grounded in fact as they are stunning in their implication. There's that word again. UFO-related secret programs have consumed a significant part of America's black budget since the Manhattan Project. The 1997 government disclosed intelligence budget portion alone is $26 billion, and according to Tim Weiner's book, Blank Check, the total black budget was about $35 billion in 1990. Even the most sensational conspiracy of modern times, the Kennedy assassination. The Kennedy assassination is a conspiracy, is likely linked to the UFO cover-up and the military cabal, as several of the documents demonstrate. Oh my God. Do I want to go through all of these documents? Do I, though? Do I? Overall, the United States UFO program grew out of necessity, first to determine the alien threat, to exploit their advanced technology in any way we could to gain a military, economic, or even a psychological advantage and win the Second World War, to maintain power, authority, and control of both technology, governments, and world stability. Initially, to make the project public would have sent unpredictable turmoil into science, religion, politics, and global economics. Even the most hardened skeptic, after reviewing the data presented and seeing copies of the original documents, will find it hard to deny that we're seeing copies. How come I can't see the originals? I want to know. If I'm going to seriously throw my life away investigating Majestic 12 documents, find it hard to deny the reality of military and government cover-up for over 50 years. All of the usual questions, which the thoughtful skeptic reader has, have either already been addressed or will soon be in our ongoing research. We welcome website visitors' comments, criticism, and support. I appreciate that. Documents dated prior to 1948 should contain at least the first series. Memo to George Marshall from FDR. George Marshall to FDR. FDR to non-terrestrial science and technology. Oppenheimer-Einstein draft. General Eisenhower memo to Colonel K.W. Ireland. Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit Field Order. Vannevar Bush letter to President Truman. Here's one of the first series. Let's look at that. This entire thing, it grew out of a certain spin on the Roswell case, the story with the alien bodies that people say they saw, but none of those witnesses checked out ever, as far as I understand it. But that didn't stop William Moore and Stanton Friedman and Jamie Shandera. Didn't stop those three. Just, it's kind of wild, actually, that it's like a fish story. The fish that got away. It gets bigger and bigger with each telling, if it's a good one at least. Yeah, I live out in the boonies in before comments. 3 pages. Dear Mr. President, I think this is supposed to be a comma, but this is in fully civilian format. Consistent with military security. Prior approval of military authorities to make known as soon as possible contributions which have been stamped original, you guys. There's always order forms at the back of these. That was very hard to read. Directive to General Twining by Eisenhower. Directive to General Twining by Truman. Air accident report. Metallurgical lab personnel. Lieutenant General Nathan Twining to Curtis LeMay, meteorological R&D memo. Counterintelligence Corps Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit report. And to Commanding General Army Air Forces. Flying Saucer Analytical Report. Hillenkotter memo to Joint Intelligence Committee. Someone brought up on a website or a blog somewhere how disingenuous it was of Tom DeLonge to both advocate for disclosure and then dole out that disclosure for cash in the form of like fictional books with presumed TV rights and so on. And I think the same is going on here. Oh, hey, look, a correct format. It's one of the points in skeptical arguments about whether the documents are fake or not. The way that the military formatted their dates at the time. There was no comma here. This came first, that sort of thing. This may have been produced later and like responding to some of that to try and prove authenticity. Dislike aircraft near military installations at State of New Mexico preliminary report. It's hard to read and incredibly boring. It's White Hot report mission assessment of recovered aerodyne objects. Majestic 12 project first annual report cover page. Like, yeah, they say they have like these documents and you can get copies of them for money, but you can't like see the originals unless I guess you're a member of the press or something. Or maybe that was just first series only. Magic Black Book summaries. Majestic 12 project annual report. In 1952, in the summer of 1952, UFOs buzzed the Capitol building. And apparently, the line of thinking goes that if the Majestic 12 was a legitimate organization tasked with protecting the country from alien threat, and they had like chief of staff of the Air Force and so on, that they would have done a better job and they wouldn't have like taken forever to scramble and all that. Chairman Dr. Vannevar Bush, Colonel J. Lawton Collins, Manager General Luther D. Miller, General Hoyt S. Vandenberg, Lieutenant General Lewis H. Burston. I don't mean any disrespect. Major General George C. McDonald, Brigadier General George F. Shulgin, Rear Admiral Paul F. Lee, Admiral John Gingrich, Dr. J. Robert Oppenheimer, Jerome C. Hunsaker, Detlev H. Bronk, Dr. Hugh L. Dryden, Dr. James H. Doolittle. Shell Oil. I thought Einstein was supposed to be on this list. Anyways. Eisenhower briefing document. There's a part two of the SOM manual. I was not aware of this. I feel like I've discovered something. Although if it uses phrases like of the Oriental race, that was that was a fun discovery. Yeah, there's an Eisenhower briefing document states the Kenneth Arnold sighting has caused near hysteria. The Kenneth Arnold sighting happened in 1947, 2 weeks before the Roswell crash, which allegedly kicked off this entire thing, except before the story changed. But mentioned, it's not mentioned anywhere that. I mean, we'll look at it later. Or actually, we can look at it now while that's loading. But it isn't mentioned as far as anyone knows about the UFOs buzzing the White House, which would be very neat to know if you're the president, don't you think? Or I don't know, maybe I'm just stupid. Maybe I'm just stupid. I think a storm's blowing in. I hope it washes all the sins out of this town. I mean, a big ask for a storm, but still. But yeah, I just think it's kind of strange that all these alleged documents have order forms attached to the end of them. Just, and an old school one, too. Just funny that. Enough rain in Oklahoma to wash the sins out of that house. All right, we're going to get a look at the Eisenhower briefing. Prepare for President-elect Dwight D. Eisenhower, eyes only. This top secret eyes only document contained compartmentalized information essential to the national security of the United States. So it should have contained UFOs buzzing the Capitol, like twice. It's top secret research and development and intelligence organization. 9 pages, so really 8 pages, because remember, we have to have an order form. This is the Roswell sighting. We have the Roswell crash, or the Kenneth Arnold sighting, the Roswell crash, organization of Majestic, need for as much information as possible about these craft, their performance characteristics, and their purpose led to the undertaking known as Project Sign. Enumeration of attachments. Memorandum for the Secretary of Defense. You are hereby authorized to proceed with all due speed and caution upon your undertaking. Hereafter, this matter shall be referred to only as Operation Majestic 12. Dear Secretary Forrestal. Okay. Dear Secretary Forrest. Okay, they say that everyone's signature when they sign things is slightly different each time. Consider, if you will, and then consider pretty identical looking, don't you think? So part 2 is still loading. What else we got? Nature of Survey, Bowen manuscript. Is the original 339-page manuscript about flying saucers. 14-page sample. What's the next group? The first series and the second series and subsequent documents all got lumped together and organized chronologically. Is there like deep Majestic lore? Is there like the deep lore? Or is that what we were looking at? The deep lore. And then there's like stacked on top of it more lore. The deep UFO lore. We jump 1961, John Kennedy, Operations Review, the MJ-12 Project. Authority of Director of Central Intelligence clarified. Marilyn Monroe. Director Helen Cotter to Donald Menzel. John F. Kennedy to the CIA. NSA Intercept. Source S1 to Cooper, burned memo cover letter. Burned memo pages 1 and 2, burned memo pages 3 through 9. Isotope thermal thrusters and applications. And here we have part 2 of the SOM manual. Red team personnel wearing protective clothing. All this is about clearing the site. EBs must be removed to a top secret facility as quickly as possible. Great care should be taken to prevent possible contamination by alien biological agents. Dead EBEs should be packed in ice at the earliest opportunity to preserve tissues. Should live EBEs be encountered, they should be taken into custody and removed to a secure facility by ambulance. Every effort should be taken to ensure the EBE's survival. Personal involvement with EBEs, or live or dead, must be kept to an absolute minimum. See Chapter 5 for more information on dealing with EBEs. Cleaning the area, special or unusual conditions. Packaging and packing data. What the fuck happened here? Chapter 4, receiving and handling. Uncrating, unpacking, and checking. You're kidding. I love this diagram. More than I think is healthy. Chapter 5, EBEs, the good stuff. The goods. Rules with encounters with living extraterrestrial biological entities, EBEs. Such encounters fall under jurisdiction of MJ12, OPNAC BBS 01, and will be dealt with by this special unit only. This section details the responsibility of persons or units making the initial contact. Any encounter with entities known to be of extraterrestrial origin is to be considered a matter of national security and therefore classified top secret. Under no circumstance is the general public or the public press to learn of the existence of these entities. The official government policy is that such creatures do not exist, and that no agency of the federal government is now engaged in any study of extraterrestrials or their artifacts. Any deviation from this stated policy is absolutely forbidden. Encounters with EBEs may be classified according to one of the following categories. A. Encounters initiated by EBEs. Possible contact may take place as a result of overtures by the entities themselves. In these instances, it is anticipated that encounters will take place at military installations or other secure locations selected by mutual agreement. How? Such meetings would have the advantage of being limited to personnel with appropriate clearance away from public scrutiny. Can't the aliens just, land on the White House lawn and blow this all to hell? Although it is not considered very probable, there also exist the possibilities that EBEs may land in public places without prior notice. In this case, the OPNAC team will formulate cover stories for the press to prepare briefings for the President and Chiefs of Staff. Encounters as the result of downed craft. Contact with survivors of accidents or craft downed by natural events or military action may occur with little or no warning. In these cases, it is important that the initial contact be limited to military personnel to preserve security. Civilian witnesses in the area will be detained and debriefed by MJ12. Contact with the EBEs by military personnel not having MJ12 or OPNAC clearance is to be strictly limited to action necessary to ensure the availability of EBEs for study by the OPNAC team. Isolation and custody. The backstory to Paul. EBEs will be detained by whatever means are necessary and removed to a secure location as soon as possible. Precautions will be taken by personnel coming in contact with EBEs to minimize the risk of disease as a result of contamination by unknown organisms. If the entities are wearing space suits or breathing apparatus of some kind, care should be exercised to prevent damage to these devices. While all efforts should be taken to assure the well-being of the EBEs, they must be isolated from any contact with unauthorized personnel. While it is not clear what provisions or amenities might be required by non-human entities, they should be provided if possible. The officer in charge of the operations will make these determinations. No guidelines now exist to cover this area. Injured or wounded entities will be treated by medical personnel assigned to the OPNAC team. If the team medical personnel are not immediately available, first aid will be administered by medical corps personnel at the initial site. Since little is known about EBE biological functions, aid will be confined to stopping of bleeding, bandaging of wounds, and splinting of broken limbs. No medications of any kind are to be administered, as the effects of terrestrial medications on non-human biological systems are impossible to predict. As soon as the injuries are considered stabilized, the EBEs will be moved by closed ambulance or other suitable conveyance to a secure location. In dealing with any living EBE, security is of paramount importance. All other considerations are secondary. Although it is preferable to maintain the physical well-being of the entity, the loss of EBE life is considered acceptable if conditions or delays to preserve that life in any way compromises the security of the operations. Fuck you! Just fuck you. No wonder the aliens hate us. Once the OPNAC team has taken custody of the EBEs, their care and in transportation to designated facilities becomes the responsibility of OPNAC personnel. Every cooperation will be extended to the team in carrying out of duties. OPNAC team personnel will be given top priority at all times, regardless of their apparent rank or status. No person has the authority to interfere with the OPNAC team in the performance of its duties by special direction of the President of the United States. I gotta say, part 2 came close to part 1. It really did. Here we have our diagrams of craft. I love how many of these weren't known in the 40s and 50s. You have like your saucer and maybe your cigar shape, but like the triangle is a later thing. Guide to identification. Should be judged individually, but there are a number of rules of thumb. For a person's reporting, distance of location to nearest field unit. References. Yeah, that came pretty damn close. It wasn't the Whopper, but it was close. Document authentication, document sources, official investigations, official documents, witnesses, Majestic personnel. Let's see who they say is on this team of dumbasses in a basement. I don't know. I'm not recovering very well from letting the aliens die. I'm not happening. It's not happening. I guess it's a good thing the documents are faked. James Jesus. UFO linked military personnel data. Arnold Hamp. Some people have like no first name. Forrestal. Gray Gordon Gray. Vandenberg. Oh, okay. Possible government scientists. Group photos of suspected Majestic personnel. Okay. A bunch of boring meetings full of boring people. I don't know, guys. I guess just we're just letting the aliens die in the name of national security, and I don't know how I feel about that.